Hey guys, welcome to Chapter 1, Section 1 and Section 2 of the Geometry program. Geometry is a nice change from the intensity of algebra, so I find most students like the reprieve of all of the intense algebraic concepts. Hopefully you'll find the geometric concepts pretty easy. You'll find this program in general hopefully pretty easy. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to tell you 1,000 times throughout this course. In order for you to be successful in geometry, you must know and be able to apply all the definitions, postulates, and theorems. All right, we're going to hit that when we start with Section 2. But just to start us off in Section 1, all we're doing is looking at patterns. So I really don't have too much to say on this, which is why I combined Section 1 and Section 2. But you're going to have examples using numbers, and you're looking for the pattern and to give like the next two terms. So if you have something like this, and you had to give the next two terms, hopefully at this point you would be able to see, all right, all we're doing is adding 5 here. So we should be able to add 37 and 42 for your next two terms. All right, there's going to be a couple of alphabet ones. You have to try to find the pattern between the letters. There's actually a couple historical questions, and you might have to look up the information if you don't recognize it. Your hint is presidents. So if you're not well versed on your early American history, you might have to actually look a little bit up. And then I think the last thing is like geometrical shapes. Things like, okay, you've got a circle like this and this is shaded, and the next one, this is shaded. Can you fill in the next one? And of course, it would be down here. So you have to recognize how it's moving to the right, to the left, if it's flipping and things like that. It should be pretty easy. So that's it. All of Section 1 is just identifying patterns. So not bad at all. All right, let's jump into Section 2 then, which begins like the heart of geometry. So we need to define things like a point. And perhaps you might think to yourself, like, that's silly, I know what a point is. But the foundation of mathematics is being clear with our definitions. So a point has a location and no size. We denote it like this and with some sort of letter. And we would name this point A. All right. So this is point A. You think that's silly, but I promise it gets a little tricky sometimes as we apply this. So that's why we're being clear. Okay, the next thing we have to define is a line. So a line is a set of points. So they would look like, if we had A, B, and C, a line goes through a set of points. And we can name this line in two ways. So naming. We can name this line AC, because those are my two end points here. Or we could name it line L. So if you use the points, you need to use the end points here. And if there's a little lowercase letter, you could also name it that way. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not, but that would be two ways that we could name a line. Okay? And then one other thing, several lines together make a plane. So a plane contains many points. And this is going to be my abbreviation for points in this course. So in your notes, feel free to abbreviate as long as you can read them. That's really all that matters. And then the other thing about planes, it contains many points and it continues on in every direction forever. So in our two-dimensional graphing, sometimes we don't realize that this goes on forever and this goes on forever, this goes on forever. So sometimes we have to extend these planes when we're answering questions, and so it's just important to remember that they can go on forever. And just like we can name a line in two different ways, we can name planes in two different ways too. Sometimes there's just a letter, and so we would name this plane X. And sometimes we see points, sometimes we see lines, but we need 3 points to name a plane. And actually, they have to be 3 non-collinear points, but we're going to define that in a minute. So this could also be plane A, B, C. Okay, so 2 ways to name a plane, 2 ways to name a line. Certainly only 1 way to name a point, right? Okay, and then there's 2 other definitions that we need to be clear on here. So there's something called collinear. Points that are collinear lie on the same line. So A and B are collinear, but A and C are not. Okay, so in order to be collinear, and you see the root word there, line, co means together, right? So they lie on the same line, they are collinear. If they do not lie on the same line, then they are not. Okay, and then of course they can be also coplanar, and that means they lie on the same plane. Again, see the root word in here, planar, co meaning together, right? So you could have points A, B, and C, right? These are coplanar points. But these points are not. So A, B, and C are coplanar, but D, E, and F are not coplanar. All right. There are several postulates in this section as well, but I would like to focus on 2. And this is important for when we're going to be applying this information. The first is that the intersection of 2 lines is a point. And the other is that the intersection of 2 planes is a line. All right, so the heart of this section is going to be trying to get you guys to identify and name points, lines, and planes, and then look for these intersections. Okay, so let's do an example. I have a degree in math and not in art. So historically, my geometric drawings have been somewhat laughable. That is going to be an important part of our time together this year is my funny drawings, but I'm going to do the best I can. And the first thing I'm going to do, if you don't already know, and you probably do it way better than I do, but is teach you how to draw a cube. We're going to be drawing a lot of cubes or rectangular prisms. And the easiest way to do that is to draw 2 either squares or rectangles offset slightly here, and then connecting the vertices. All right. You guys are also going to be doing a lot of note taking and a lot of drawing in your assignments. So that's just a basic. And if you do it better than that, you're amazing. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw some points up. Let's call this A, B, C, D, let's E, F, G, and H. Okay, so let's say to start, we wanted to name the plane represented by the bottom of this shape. So there's a plane there, and we have 4 points to choose from. A H, E, and D. All right, so all you need to do is grab 3 non-collinear points. Well, we don't have to worry about that because we don't actually have 3 points on a line down here, so that makes your job easy. So any of them will do. So A, D, E would be one way to name it. As you can imagine, there will be lots of ways to name these very often, so you just have to pick one. All right, and be careful too when you're checking your answers. Okay, let's do one more. What about this side plane here? That plane could be CFE. That would be one way. Okay, what if I wanted to find the intersection of those 2 planes? So the plane from the bottom and the plane from this right side intersect at a line. So the intersection of those 2 planes is, remember, this is one of the postulates I wanted you to remember, is the line DE. And the way that we identify the line is by taking the 2 endpoints that we have and then drawing the line with the 2 arrows on either side with it. Again, because just like a plane goes on infinitely, so does a line. So the arrows above indicate that it goes on forever. So that would be the way that we'd want to indicate it. What if we wanted to do the left side, the intersection between this left-sided plane and the bottom plane? What would be that intersection? Think about it to yourself for a second. And you should have gotten AH, right? Okay, not bad. You just have to identify where the planes are and to know that 2 planes intersect at a line. Similarly, if they wanted to know the intersection between, line M, I should do my arrows here, and line L, they would intersect at point X, right? Because the intersection of 2 lines is a point. All right, so that is the main information that you need for this section. Most of this is just applying this information, helping you name things. So go ahead and finish up your notes. Make sure you read through the examples in this section and begin your assignment.